new poet laureate for 2025-2026. The Winnipeg Arts Council has announced that award-winning writer Jennifer Still is the new person for the job, the fourth since the program was started by the Winnipeg Arts Council. Still succeeds Chimwemwe Undi, who has gone on to be the parliamentary poet laureate this year. So many exciting things to celebrate with poetry in the city of Winnipeg. Jennifer Still joins us in the Classic 107 studios to talk about her new role and her work. Hello.
Hello, Nolan.
Congratulations, first of all, on the role. How does it feel to receive this honor?
Yeah, it does feel like an honor, and it does feel like a bit not heavy, but like a responsibility, and in a beautiful way. You know, the poetic practice, or my poetic practice, has been one that's filled with solitude and reflection and selective collaboration. But I feel like this huge opening, like I'm about to collaborate with the entire city of Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And so that's that kind of fluctuating sense of openness and also responsibility.
Yeah, a bit of a whole bunch of excitement, but also like a wow there, because there's a lot that we could do, and there's a lot of responsibility, as you say. I love that word, and we'll get to that in just a second. But maybe first I'll ask you, what does poetry as a medium capture about the city of Winnipeg that maybe other mediums aren't able to?
I mean, it's my medium, so I can't speak to others, but the first thing that comes to mind is possibility. To me, Winnipeg is a city that is constantly on the verge of the possible in some ways, like maybe not always fully made, always verging. And poetry is, I think, about what is possible on the page. And what is possible to be a page, and what is possible to do with that space.
That is, there's so much to unpack with all of that and all of that expansion. But even to get into your own story, you've been kind of expanding the boundaries of poetry for really your entire career. As you grew up in East Kildonan, I read that you carved poetry with gravel into the city itself. What was your first sort of exposure to poetry within this city, and what inspired you to try and engage with it in such a maybe even a more tactile, shall we say, way than just putting pen to page?
I love that you use the word carve, because to write means to carve, right? It wasn't necessarily, I didn't think of it as poetry. I thought of it as engaging with the world and creating, just creating like a spark, like making a mark, making a contact, and perhaps having almost a secret reader. So what if you put a word out there and someone comes upon it? It wasn't about me writing it. It was about someone discovering this word, this, experience of encounter. I couldn't have said that then, but I really think that sort of magical engagement with the world that had a bit of meaning inside of it. It wasn't without meaning. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take this moment and I'm going to say something with it.
Wow. You're really, then it feels like responding, adding to the conversation of the physical world around you, not just in conversation with the city as it is a collection of people, but also you're responding to the city as a collection of physical, inanimate objects as well. How does the city speak to you differently now than maybe it did when you first started writing poetry in East Kildonan? Or does it speak differently?
Wow, I love your questions, Nolan. Thank you. I don't almost know if it does speak that much differently. I just feel like it's alive. You know, the shapes of the city are alive, the vibrations. I grew up in East Kildonan. I grew up along a crescent of a railroad track. So I just have this vision of like a hook or a curve with light, the railways with light, almost like a letter shape,
Yeah.
And I guess just being able to see that everywhere we go to see that there's possibility and invitation to respond. If we want it, if we're looking for it.
Right. Sometimes in the world, like we're just walking around, we're doing our own thing, but to be open to the possibility of response to what's around us.
Yes.
That also seems like to be consistently responding to the world can seem also rather maybe exhausting to always constantly be in dialogue. It's one thing to be always in dialogue with people, but also with these inanimate objects that make up the city of Winnipeg. How do you maintain that sort of creative spark, or that maybe we'll call it a responsorial reflex, if you will?
That's new to me. I like it. Responsorial.
It's all yours.
I think I love that you said exhaustion, because it should be at the best energizing, because I think for me to be reflective and interior with this practice in so many ways makes it not makes it like I can channel what I like. I can like offer back what I like of that. It's also fluid. You mentioned a lot of times like this kind of static physical world that exists, but poetry is in conversations, interactions. It's in the motion of the city. So I think you're not exhausted if you're in motion with it, like you're rolling with it. So you can't capture it all, right? And you can't say it all. And so listening with selection, and that comes with becoming to know yourself and knowing your voice and knowing what curiosity is generative in your practice, right? Like it can't be everything.
Right.
But it can be some things.
Right.
And so you become more selective, I guess, as you go.
Okay. In that selection, as you're crafting poetry, you are also incorporating elements of Winnipeg into your poems, both in the words, but also literally, like actually finding things to write on. We talked about the gravel before, but also like you talk about what things can all be carved on. And I'm wondering, what sorts of things do you incorporate into the actual physical material of your poetry, and how do you go about deciding what to infuse your poetry with?
Yeah. Well, I've been working with light, which is our, so far, eternal resource.
Yeah. And
the aperture of a word and a page, and how to let light through a page literally. Like, I'm a poet. I work with figurative language, but to then work with the literal feels like this most exciting counterpoint. So figurative language, I could be speaking about a light way of being in the world. But then I could put a thread or a pinhole through a page and actually let that light through. And how does that interact with the word? It's like, it blows my mind. It's simple and gentle and quiet practice that is magical at the same time.
Wow.
And physical, like it is real, it's tangible. I actually brought you a poem, Nolan.
Did you really?
I could just give you an example of this by handing you a piece of paper that looks like a bunch of words, but I invite you to hold it to the light. You have so many windows in this space.
That's true.
But you could hold it also to your fluorescent light.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm holding this to my lamp here in the studio because there are so many beautiful fluorescents that exist.
And what should happen is words. I have needled the page.
Yes.
To
look at that.
Erase words and to let the others that I've saved float into focus.
So just as an example, I'm going to read a little excerpt of this as I experience it with the light, which says, "Therefore, that the hexagon is not merely the result of mechanical necessities, but that it has its true place in the plans, the experience, the intellect, and the will of the bee." Now, within that reading, the experience is the word that is not perforated. You can't see the light move through the experience.
Yes.
Tell me why that was the choice for when you create this.
Oh, you have just blown my mind because you've read it in a way I didn't actually intend or imagine, which is super exciting. So the experience is the word I've saved, and the light is all around it.
Yeah.
So that even as a metaphor, for the experience to hold the ground.
Wow.
And just be within the light. There you go.
There we go.
See, I'm just describing the page, but
yes,
that happens.
We are going to put a picture of this on our website later on today, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app with light shining through it so people can fully sort of appreciate what we're talking about with this. And of course, people can see this on our YouTube channel as well as we're talking about this. Speaking of holding things within an experience, this experience holds a lot, as we've been talking about before, this experience of being the poet laureate. There's a lot of, as you talked about before, responsibility that comes with this position. I mean, maybe first we can start, before getting into like the sort of deeper meaning within that, what are some of the things that the Poet Laureate of Winnipeg actually does as we are going to be seeing you in the next year?
Yeah, this is the 4th year. So Dom at the Winnipeg Arts Council expressly said there are a few opportunities that we will, that are expected. And that one of them is reading and attending the mayor's annual luncheon event and presenting a poem at that event. Maybe reading to city council a few times, bringing poetry into council, but also being a literary ambassador for the City of Winnipeg. So that's where it starts to open up and get more broad, and where Dom said it's about doing the work I do and making connections. So that's a very natural extension of my full-time job as an artist right now.
Right. So within those responsibilities that have been laid out by the Winnipeg Arts Council, there's also the responsibility that you're holding to all Winnipeggers to some degree. Like you are, like as you're creating, as you are writing, you are also, you touched on this before, this responsibility to the city as a whole. As you go forward in your duties as Poet Laureate, do you think that this added responsibility will have any sort of impact on your output as you consider the rest of the city?
Oh, I do. And the word responsibility could also be seen as commitment.
Yes.
And I really appreciate the word commitment. And yeah, I'm curious about the idea of speaking to an audience and speaking more directly to the city or from within the city, and meeting people and responding to Winnipeg together. I think when I think of it as like a collaboration, maybe encouraging and inspiring people to find their particular voice and their reactions and interactions with the city will be part of my practice. I think how it's going to, and how it already has affected my practice, is in the mode of sharing and reach. I'm a poet who doesn't have a single social media account. I have never had a webpage, and it's the first thing I said to Dom was, Dom, I don't have a webpage. I can't even share. And Dom said, well, the Poet Laureate has a site. And I was like excited by that. And so I think I want to have a sort of practice of daily accumulation that is also shared, which is completely new to me. I do this in my own practice. I write daily. I have certain things that I do, but what if I put it up there? What if I share it with the community? And I hope it'll be fresh and new, very unlike what I normally do. It usually takes 7 years before a book comes out. So this is a real in poetry time. That's like hyper speed. Like we're going to the moon.
Light speed, as it were.
Light speed. Thank you. Hilarious.
That's a word I need to use more often. In addition to this light speed that you will be operating at, you also have a new book out to talk about. April 2025, the A Little Book of Light, I understand.
Oh, you're so sweet. Actually, this is great. The Little Book of Light isn't a new book. It's what I'm creating daily.
That's what the creation is. I see.
Yeah, so these accumulations, pinhole by pinhole through a page, I will be posting as I go.
There we go.
What I'm hoping is that I will present the work at some point. Yeah, in a variety of forms. When you have a page that has apertures, there's the opportunity to project. So I'm thinking of like growing the pinhole to wider distances.
Wow. So much to break down within this, such an exciting role. And maybe by way of a last question, how do you think, as you contemplate, maybe it's too soon to contemplate 2026, how do you think this experience will change your work going forward?
I feel like I will be taking bigger risks, and I will be becoming more a better editor and more decisive in my own work because I just think the daily practice and feeling a sense of audience just will raise me. It will raise me.
Wow.
It already is. The discussion with you already is.
The feeling very much mutual, and I'm sure I can speak on behalf of our listeners to say the exact same thing. Jennifer Still, new Poet Laureate of the City of Winnipeg. It was such a joy having you here in our Classic 107 studios. Come back anytime.
Thanks, Nolan.